Welcome to Life, Lessons, and Laughter with your host, Glenn Ambrose.
Hey everybody, welcome to the show. Wow, it just hit 555 as the recording started. So here we are talking Happy New Year to everybody. This is being recorded January 2nd, 2024. So yeah, today, what a great way to start the new year. I was looking back and I don't think I've done a podcast on this specifically, which kind of surprises me because radical responsibility is such a huge topic. It's, I know I've touched on it in other podcasts, but so I'm going to dive into radical responsibility in relationships because that's what kind of sparked this podcast. A childhood friend of mine made a post and it got the wheels turning. So I commented on it and we went back and forth a little bit. So yeah, I'm going to start with the relationships. I don't know if it's going to go into another area because radical responsibility is really the foundation of spiritual living. In my perspective, it's the foundation for happy living. When I first woke up, it was through getting sober, and people were like, "What happened to you?" Because they could tell I was different. And that was one of the first things that I said 20 years ago is I said, I found out that my life was all messed up because of the things that I had done. I had played a part in messing my life up. All the things that went wrong, I played a part in. And now that I know better, I can do better. So it was really kind of, it was taking radical responsibility in a way that it stopped me from pointing the finger outward and blaming everything other than myself. I was the common denominator that I never saw. Like all these bad things happen to me and all these bad experiences and all these bad breaks and all these bad people and all these bad situations. And the one thing that they all had in common was me. And I never saw that, I never saw it that way. And until you really see it that way, pardon me, I'm still getting over the little cold I had. So, until I saw it that way, I couldn't take responsibility for my life and really make the changes that I needed to make. So we all need to do this. And I understand that, I was wrapped up in alcoholism back then, but that wasn't my only dysfunction. And then when I got sober, I started working with alcoholics and addicts. But then eventually I started working with everyone and I found out like, oh my God, like everybody's battling the same stuff. It's the same problems. And if you look around at some of the stuff, it's the same in the microcosm as it is in the macrocosm. So what's going on in our own lives on a smaller level, we can see in a larger scale in society. And one thing that we see in society is people arguing about everything, So radical responsibility can help that. And I'll get into how. But, in relationships, in a way, everything is relationship based, whether it's a romantic relationship, a relationship with your family, friends, business, like they're more alike than they are different relationships, all different types of relationships, because they have to have a foundation of respect and honesty and trust and things like that to make them healthy. If they don't have those things, if you don't have any respect in a business relationship, it's going to be a crappy business relationship. If you don't have any respect in a romantic relationship, you're going to have a crappy romantic relationship. If you don't have any respect in a family relationship, it's going to be a crappy family relationship. This is what I mean. Like the foundation of them, the things that we really need to anchor on and do the work on it's the same no matter what relationship we're looking at. The building blocks, the basic building blocks of the foundation are the same. And if we fix those, that's what's going to fix the relationships. So, this is how I do all my work. It's like most of the time, people are trying to figure out like how to get along with their boss. Who gives a crap how to get along with your boss? How about learning how to get along with everyone forever? How about learning that? Because it's really basic and it's very simple. And I'm not saying it's easy to do, but once you make those changes and you interact in a way that you can develop healthy relationships, it's going to improve all your relationships, not only that you have, but all the ones you'll ever have until you die. I like that. I'd like to do that, please. Instead of going like, oh, I'm going to have a conversation about a 25-cent raise with my boss. And if I phrase it correctly, our relationship will enhance. It's a waste of time, in my opinion. Fix everything. So specifically, I'm going to come in the door of romantic relationships. That's what this post was about. Now, to preface this, there is a rise in the divine feminine. I think most people can see that. Most people listening to this can see that we've been out of balance for a very long time. And, we've been basically running the world through toxic masculinity, not just masculinity, toxic masculinity. There's a difference. Excuse me. The masculinity has good parts. I did a podcast on this already, so I'm not going to get into it, but masculinity has good and bad to it. And when it's in balance, you really see the good. When it's out of balance, you really see the bad. So we've been so out of balance, we're into the toxic aspects of masculinity, which has caused a lot of the problems, the wars, the acquisition mentality, all that type of stuff. So we've been out of balance for tens of thousands of years. And we're coming back into balance. So the rise of the divine feminine is happening. And it's wonderful that this is happening. And we need it. And it's great. And it's wonderful. And I love it. It's just what happens a lot of times when a correction is being made, we overcorrect. And it's because of the pendulum, and I'm just going to touch on this briefly because I know I've talked about this many times. But like if you picture a pendulum hanging down, it takes energy to be in dysfunction. So we're way over to the left in toxic masculinity. When you let go of the pendulum, when you release the energy that's holding it up in the air, the pendulum swings to the other side just naturally. So it overcorrects and then it comes back to center. So this is often what happens. And if we're clear on that and we expect it and we understand that that's what's happening, we can course correct so much quicker to get back into balance. And instead of swinging way over to the level of dysfunction into the feminine energy, toxic feminine, because feminine energy has toxic aspects to it as well. It's when it's out of balance. So when we go too far into the feminine, that becomes toxic as well. So we do not want that. And this is what we need to, this is a big part about why I'm having this conversation, is because we're overcorrecting to some degree. And radical responsibility in relationships can help this, especially in relationships. So if we're clear that it's common to turn into your own enemy. So like when you've been oppressed, if a group of people have been oppressed, that's what power looks like. Power looks like what the oppressor is. And if you don't keep that in mind, what happens is you become the oppressor. You just become what you. Okay, so that's what an overcorrection looks like. So if we go from men putting down women and suppressing feminine energy over to women putting down men and oppressing male energy, all we're going to do is go from one dysfunction to another dysfunction. You know, where and it's going to suck for everybody. You know, I mean, people's egos, you know, feminine egos might get a stroke for a while because they're in charge, but I mean, it's meaningless. It's just as dysfunctional as men being in charge, you know? So what I want is for us all to be one. And I think that that's what we all want really deep down. If you get rid of the ego, oh, I want to be in charge for a while because I've been crapped on. That's purely ego. So if we get out of that and we just go, okay, what's healthy? Let's get to healthy so everybody can be happy. That's what we all want. We don't want to, it doesn't feel good. Like I'm a grounded male, right? I don't run around putting women down because like male energy still dominates. Why do I not do that? I suppose I could, right? I'm a white male, so I should be able to go run around oppressing whoever the hell I want. That's in theory. I don't want to. Why? Because it doesn't feel good. It doesn't make me feel good to do that to other people because it's negative energy. It's bad. So I don't, it doesn't empower me. It doesn't feel good to oppress other people. So this is what we need to keep in mind. That's I'm not like saying, oh, women, you don't get your chance to oppress. I'm saying, women, you don't want your chance to oppress because it sucks. Like, you know, it doesn't feel good if you're living from the heart. If you're living egoically and just want to crap all over everybody, then go ahead. I mean, you know, you can do that. I don't know why you would, but so and I mean, men and women can do this because men and women have both masculine and feminine energy. So, you know, I'm generalizing a little bit here to make a point, but I mean, a man can go use toxic feminine energy to oppress or something if they wanted. But anyway, let's just stay on point. So what I'm seeing, you know, is in a radical responsibility perspective is people always pointing the finger at other people. Oh, it's the Republicans' fault. It's the Democrats' fault. It's Hamas's fault. It's Egypt's fault. It's Russia's fault. You know, it's Ukraine's fault. It's just like it's endless. It's picking sides and pointing fingers at things that we have no control over. That's outside of us. It's men's fault. It's women's fault. Like we have to stop pointing the finger outward, and we have to take radical responsibility for our own lives. Okay, and how this. You know, you see it all the time on social media. I mean, all the time. People going, oh, don't you hate it when people aren't there for you when you were there for them? You know, you don't allow, don't put up with, like men need to be better. They need to be good, and most women will suffer because men are bad. No, most women don't suffer because men are bad. Most women suffer in, you know, in relationships. Now, this is really what I'm diving into here, so bear with me a little bit, because this is kind of a trigger moment, right? I'm going to say some stuff that can trigger, especially the women. Now, so bear with me because that's not my intention. I'm not trying to piss you off. I'm actually trying to help. Okay. And it's going to help men too if they can understand this, because there is that rise of the divine feminine, and we have a tendency to go to a little bit too far. So some of the posts, instead of being focused on women doing the work on themselves, is saying basically the wording of these posts, a lot of them kind of assume that women are all set. Like there's nothing wrong with the woman. There's something wrong with the men. Okay. And it doesn't matter if it's women or men, or Democrats or Republicans, or right, left, or any other two sides. If you're looking at the other side, there's a problem. Always, because you can't fix the other side. You have no control over the other side. It's not you, so you can't fix it. So come back to you. In recovery, they say, like, if you're pointing a finger at somebody, there's 3 fingers pointing back at you. So it's 3 times more important to look at yourself than it is to look at somebody else. And I believe that to be true, because that's where all my growth came from. I have never become a better version of myself by somebody else fixing something that's wrong with them. It's never happened, nor will it ever. I cannot grow. I cannot become a better version of myself. I will never find happiness if other people do what they're supposed to do. And this is the outlook for most people in most situations, not just relationships, not just women, men and women. Everybody's thinking like this. I'm not just talking to the women. I'm talking to men and women about this topic of radical responsibility in relationships. This is definitely not specifically pointed towards women. This is for everyone. Everyone has to focus on themselves. This is what Gandhi meant when he said, be the change you wish to see in the world. People, that sounds really cool, right? But you got to slow down and keep that in your mind. And if you look around, you will see countless scenarios where that will benefit you. Be the change you wish to see in the world. Why? Because you can't be anything else. You can't be you can't fix anything outside of you. And what is messed up with society? You know what society is? It's a group of messed up people. Well, society is a group of people. Right now, they happen to be messed up. Most people aren't doing the work that they need to do on themselves. That's why society has all its problems. How do you fix that? By each single person, me doing my work, my neighbor doing their work, the neighbor doing their work. But I can't be concerned about my neighbor doing their work. Why? Because I have no control over that. And this is what we focus on. We sit around, most people sit around going, like, the other people have to, if we didn't have any jerks on the planet, then I'd be happy. They don't say it that way because it's too obvious when you say it that way. People are just like, oh, I can't believe people are like this. I can't believe people drive stupid. And then it causes me to get pissed off and have road rage. I can't believe that CEOs make $200 million and I only make $20 an hour. And I can't believe it. Doesn't matter. You're not going to fix them. As long they are not your problem, you are your problem, always, in every way. And it's a good thing. We don't like hearing that, but it's a good thing. Because we think it's easier to blame. All that does is it keeps us stuck. Why? Because we can't change anything if we blame it on other people. Why? Because we can't control other people. But it makes us feel like we're doing something. It makes us feel like we give a crap. It makes us feel like we're a good person when we stand up and go, oh my God, the sex trafficking in this world is horrible. Like, this is horrible. I can't believe there are people like that out there. What does that statement do? Does it stop sex trafficking? No, it doesn't. So you being upset over sex trafficking does absolutely zero. It does nothing. All it does is it makes you feel like a good person because you got upset about something bad. Oh, congratulations. That and a token gets you on the bus. It's worthless. It's useless. All it does, and this is what most of us do. And why do we do it? It's because it feeds our ego. It gives us an ego stroke. It makes us feel a little bit better whenever we complain. So we complain about something externally, we feel a little bit better. And then what do we have to do? Well, there's not much energy in that. So we have to do it again shortly after so we can feel a little bit better about ourselves. Start focusing on ourselves. What do I need to do? What do I need to do in my life? And don't worry about, this is how all self-work goes. Like I've told people this tons of times because I saw it in recovery. I see it in recovery all the time. And I see it in not just recovery, but people working on them. You want to know when people actually like really make leaps and bounds in their spiritual work or their self-help work within themselves. It's when they stop keeping score of where they are. Am I there yet? Am I there yet? Am I happy yet? Did I do this yet? And they just get lost in doing the work on themselves. Like going, I'm going to be in the present moment as often as I can. Not, I'm going to be in the present moment as often as I can. So therefore, in 3 weeks, I'm going to be more peaceful. And then I'll have arrived and blah, 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 whatever else they make up. They just go, I'm going to try to be conscious so I can choose my behavior. Or I'm going to try to be in the present moment as often as I can. And then they'll just go out doing it, like literally doing it. Not talking about it, not reading about it, not listening to a podcast about it, actually doing it. Like they'll sit there and they'll go like, you know, while they're working, oh, okay, I got to come back to the present moment. Okay, there, I'm there. Am I fully there? Yeah. Yeah. Okay, cool. All right. And then they'll get back to their work or doing whatever they're doing. And they'll do that multiple times throughout the day. That's of huge benefit. And you just get lost in doing that. And then all of a sudden you become more conscious. And then all of a sudden you choose your reactions instead of reacting to situations. And then all of a sudden people are coming up, you know, whatever, a few weeks, a few months later, and they're going, oh my God, you seem so much different. What have you been doing? And you're like, what? Like you don't even notice it yourself because you're not looking for the differences. You're just lost in doing the work. This is, and the peace and the contentment just comes organically. You don't have to try for it. You don't have to reach for it. You're just lost in doing the work. That's when it comes. But we have to do the work on ourselves. So let's bring this into, I'm going to bring this into the post, you know, this type of post. So bear with me. There's lots of these posts, and this is just one example. But this post kind of started out something about a real man. What's sad about this picture is that most women, I'm going to read some of this. What's sad about this picture is that most women will go their entire lifetime and never experience the meaning of actual true love. It's even slightly depressing to think that most people will never understand how powerful this picture actually is. There was a picture of a person in the post. Let's see, I'm going to just try to skip to some bullet points. We unfortunately live in a generation with men who have no idea what it takes to be a real man. Let me give you some examples of a real man. A real man asks about your day and genuinely cares about the answer. He takes time for you, takes time to learn and understand who you are as a person, consistently shows you the definition of effort with every day that passes, will call you randomly throughout the day. Now, some of this stuff is actually not true because it depends on the person that you're in a relationship with. Like not all people, you know, there's different love languages, there's different personalities, there's different. So some of this varies, you know, I mean, it sounds good in the post. Don't get me wrong. I mean, you're reading a post, and this is what we can't do in posts. Just read through them quickly. And just whenever something sounds good, we sit up here in our brain and just go, yeah, that sounds good. And it touches our heart a little bit. And we're like, oh, yeah, oh, yeah, oh, yeah. And we never slow down to think, is this true? He never confuses you on where you stand in his life. Yeah, that in a healthy relationship, there's some truth to that, right? But he never confuses you where you stand in his life. Like most times, confusion is caused by the person. It's not always caused by the other person, right? And one of the problems with this, the reason I'm talking about it, is the term narcissist has gotten real popular in the past few years, right? And which there are narcissistic people, and those people who are narcissists use other people, and that's a bad thing, right? I'm not arguing that. My point is that we cannot, as long as you're focused on a narcissist, you're screwed. Why? Because you can't fix a narcissist. They can fix themselves if they so choose, but you can't. And you can't wait and not date anybody until all the narcissistic men, in this particular example, we're going to go with the classic man-woman relationship here. And you can't wait until all the narcissistic men are off the planet and then feel safe dating. You have to find a way to feel safe dating anyway, even though there are narcissistic men on the planet. Okay. Now, who can a narcissistic man take control over? Who can they manipulate? They can manipulate somebody that is able to be manipulated. That is your work. If you're getting manipulated by narcissists and you're running around pointing the finger at narcissists saying that, oh my God, they're bad. Oh my God, they're bad. Yeah, who cares? As soon as you know that you're with a narcissist, get out of the relationship. That's your responsibility. Okay. And then once you get and I understand it might be hard. You might be under their thumb and you might have to work through it. I'm not saying that it's easy. I'm saying that nobody's coming to save you. Your life is your responsibility. So you need to get out of the narcissistic relationship. And once you do, instead of running around, telling all your friends how much of a narcissist he was and aren't narcissists bad and starting a blog about narcissists, what you can do is start working on yourself. So the next time you meet a narcissist, they can't manipulate you. This is what I'm talking about. This is radical responsibility. We have to stop pointing the finger at the narcissist and the psychos and the pedophiles and everything else. I'm not saying that there's anything good about those people. There's plenty bad about them. And if they hurt somebody, they can be held accountable. They can go to jail. They can, whatever needs to happen to them. Sure. I'm not throwing that out. All I'm saying is, do you want to be happy? Do you want to have a healthy relationship? Because if you do, you need to work on yourself. It has nothing to do with the other people. I'm single and dating. I have no fears, zero fear about dating a narcissist, somebody that is constantly in a victim mentality, somebody that will manipulate me or hurt me in any way, shape, or form. Zero fear over that. Zero. Why? Because I've done the work on myself. That's why. And if I meet somebody that is toxic in some sort of way, as a general rule, I'm not interested in them. Why? Because we vibrate at different levels. Narcissists find victims. That's what they do. So don't be a victim, and you don't have to worry about the narcissist. And that people are like, oh, this is victim blaming. No, I'm not blaming anybody. It's nobody's fault. It's not blame. All I'm saying is that if you want peace and happiness in your life, you need to do the work on you, period. That's all I'm saying. It's nobody's fault. We just do better when we know better. I didn't know this stuff. I've been in my share of unhealthy relationships before I woke up. Why? Because I didn't know better. I didn't do my work. Once I did my work, I don't get into unhealthy relationships. I've said this many times over the last 20 years that the quality of women that I've dated is like off the charts. I mean, it's like, I mean, I'm single, so, so I haven't met the one, and there's several reasons for that. Where I am in life and blah, blah, blah. But like, and some of them had, qualities that didn't work with me for the long term. Okay. So, which is fine. But every one of them was a quality woman on the majority of levels, and that we all have our baggage. So I'm not, looking for somebody that's like perfect, because that doesn't exist. But I date wonderful, good women. Why? Well, I mean, is it really that difficult to see when somebody's trouble? I don't think it is at all. Like, I think it's extremely easy. Why? Because I've done my work. That's why. So you can see it a mile away. If you're having a conversation about it and you're relaxed, that's another thing that people do, is they they bring their representative when they're dating, so neither person even gets to know the other person. And so I'll touch on that. Sometimes people can not show themselves in the beginning of a relationship, right? And that's fine. It's okay. Like, people are so scared of that, especially people that have been hurt before. Like I said, I'm not scared of that at all. Like, because I'm just going to be relaxed because I'm not fearful, right? So I'm relaxed on myself. What does that induce? That induces somebody else to relax and be themselves. Okay. So let's just take the example of somebody being an alcoholic. If somebody is an alcoholic and I'm like very strict and kind of watching their every move and stuff like that, they're going to hide the fact that they're an alcoholic. Whereas if I'm really relaxed and laid back and really not judgmental, not, looking them over all the time, and, thinking like every time they do something, when they order a second drink, they don't look over at me and I'm over there going, second drink, huh? Like, I'm not doing any of that. So what does that do? It gives them the relaxation and a freedom to be themselves. And then they show me who they are a lot quicker. That's when people show you who they are, when they feel safe around you, right? So I just let them feel safe immediately, and they show me who they are quicker. And I don't think it's a waste of time. Some people are like, oh my God, I dated somebody for 2 months and then found out they were an alcoholic. It was such a waste of time. That's dating, man. That's life. It's not a waste of time. You just went out and tried meeting somebody. You put action and energy towards what you would like. You would like a relationship, and you went out there and you dated for a while, and then it didn't work out with this one. Okay, well, hopefully you had a couple good meals out of it, maybe a couple good conversations, maybe something else, and you move on to the next one. It's not a waste of time. It's the process. It's the process. People are so scared of wasting time. Like, no, everything is a process. When you start a business, it's a process. You don't just start it and then the next day same with relationships. Everything is a process. That life is one giant process. You never finish anything. You never finish the dishes. Then you got to eat, and there's more dishes. So it's a process. Don't worry about it. Relax. And with this, we don't worry about what men have or what men don't have. Let me see if I can go back to that post. A real man is undeniably committed to you and looks for new ways to fall in love with you with every day that passes. He makes protecting your heart a number one priority. Like, I mean, how would you ever find somebody like this? I mean, don't get me wrong. Like if I'm like in love with somebody, this is, all this stuff sounds good, right? Like I'm reading this and I'm not sitting there going, oh, that sounds stupid. That sounds stupid. No, it sounds really nice. But my brain doesn't get all excited when it hears something that sounds really nice. I follow it with, is that true? Is that realistic? How do I achieve that? Like I go deeper questions. And when I look at this stuff, a real man is undeniably committed to you and looks for new ways to fall in love with you that every day that passes. So like, how would you find somebody like that? Like that, like that's somebody that is in love with you. And over time, like the only way to prove if a man is like that is over time. Well, how do you find that? It's my point is as you read these things, it like, I'll read a few of them, and hopefully you guys can follow along and see what I mean. As you're reading these, what the brain is doing, yes, I need a man like that. Yes, I need a man like that. Yes, I need a man like that. And it's never looking at what do I need to do to achieve that. It's only going, I need a man like that. And it's saying like you, it's never about you doing the work to attract a man like that. And that's what you need to do. So this list it's kind of useless. I mean, I shouldn't say that. It's not useless. It's just, see, things like this, the people that would argue with me over this, right? What they would say is they'd be like, well, yes, but it's important to understand that, because a lot of women don't know this, that you actually can have a man that can be like this. That actually asks you about your day and really actually cares. That doesn't confuse you on where you stand in his life. You can actually have a man that shows you consistent effort. You can actually have a man that values you and wouldn't put themselves in a position to lose you. Like that to me kind of sounds like cheating, which is something that I don't do because I consider myself a good man. I don't ever cheat, ever. If I'm in a committed relationships with somebody, I will not cheat. And it's not because necessarily, it's not really about them, quite honestly. Do I not want to hurt them? Of course I don't want to hurt them. I care about them. I'm in a committed, loving relationship with them. But that's not really why I don't cheat. The main reason I don't cheat is because I love myself. And I think a cheater is a liar and a liar is a cheater. And both of those are not energies that I want to have in me. That's not the man that I want to be. Okay. So that's why I do it. But back to the point, it is good for women to know that there are good men out there and to raise their standards and not just date some dirtbag, somebody that's going to manipulate them. That is good. That's helpful, right? But that's like 10% of the work. How long does that take? If you're open and willing to listen and actually implement change, that takes about 5 minutes. That takes a conversation. It doesn't take 10 years of social media posts. It takes 5 minutes. It doesn't take 320 workshops or 42 ayahuasca ceremonies. It takes about 5 minutes. It takes about 5 minutes for you to open up your mind and go, listen, and maybe 10 minutes, because we'll have a back and forth conversation. There are men who can actually treat you like this. Slow down and let you absorb the fact that there are good men that will respect you and love you in appropriate ways. And these are some of the things these are some of the ways that it could look like for you. Oh, okay. I can read through that, be like, yes, okay, that is possible. You're telling me that's possible? Yes, it is possible. Oh, okay. So 5 or 10 minutes, you get that. Okay. You understand it. That's it. That's a little intellectual piece in the corner of your brain that doesn't do crap. Okay? It's good for you to know, but it doesn't do anything. It's not going to change your life. It's not going to get you into a healthy relationship. It's not going to be able to have you pick up on the problems that are arising in an unhealthy relationship because you haven't done your work. It's not going to trigger red flags for you, most likely. It's really not going to do much. It's very little. Is it a piece? Yes, it's a piece. It's good to have that knowledge that there are good men or good women out there. That it's helpful, but it does very little for your life. So this is the mechanics of it. Okay. So I've used this example before. Say you've got this narcissistic guy. I'm just going to use physical abuse because it's a really extreme example that I think people can relate to and see my point real clearly. So like, if you have a male that physically abuses women, right? They don't usually punch him in the face on the first date. They work up to that, unfortunately. So like there's with all the men that physically abuse, generally they're looking for victims. But if they so happen to date a woman who is not a victim, that woman is not going to date that person long. And they'll probably never even hit them, but the woman will end that relationship almost immediately. Why? Because they can pick up on the energy of that. They can pick up on the behaviors. When you have self-love, you can pick up on dysfunctional feelings, dysfunctional behaviors. So maybe like somebody with real good self-esteem, like let's say that this abusive man like yells at a waitress or something out to dinner. Now, somebody with low self-esteem would be like, oh, well, maybe he's having a bad day, and they'll rationalize it away. Why? Because they would put up with it themselves. Whereas somebody with high self-esteem wouldn't put up with it themselves. And they're like, oh my God, I can't believe he just talked to her like that. I'm never seeing this guy again. If he treats her like that, that's enough. He doesn't even have to treat me crappy. If he's treating other people crappy, that's enough. I told my son this when he was young. He was dating. I mean, he was real little, so it's just little kid dating. Elementary school or 7th or 8th grade or something. I think that's what it was. And he comes, he goes, Dad, there's this girl at school, and she's my girlfriend or something. And I'm like, oh, cool. And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, oh, why do you like her? And he, I said, well, I always used to ask him, what's she like? Because sometimes he'd come home because of society's conditioning. He'd be like, oh, she's really pretty. I'm like, yeah, that's cool. But what is she like? And he'd be like, oh, she treats me really good. And he said that one day. He goes, she treats me really good. And I was like, she treats you really good. Well, that's good, of course. But I mean, of course she's going to treat you good. She likes you. So how does she treat other people? And he goes, oh, she doesn't treat other people good. She treats other people like crap, but she treats me good. And I was like, pay attention to that. Because once this new thing wears off about her liking you, of course she's going to treat you nice. She likes you. But as soon as that wears off a little bit and her true personality comes out, if she's treating everybody else like crap, guess what? She's probably going to start treating you like crap. And no kidding, within a week, he comes home. He's like, oh, we broke up. He's like, yeah, she started treating me like crap, so I ended it. I was like, see, So this is what I mean. When you build up self-esteem, you can pick up on stuff like that. So the difference, to close off this example, the difference between a woman in this scenario, and this goes for men on the reverse as well, of course. The difference between a woman who dates an abusive man and breaks up with them very, very quickly and never actually experiences the abuse, And the woman who starts dating an abusive man and stays with him and gets, locked into the relationship, into the manipulation and all that bad stuff, and ends up staying in that relationship and then ends up being abused. The difference between those two women is self-esteem. It's self-love. Somebody with self-love isn't going to put up with it. They're out the door. See ya. Somebody who has low self-esteem, low self-love will rationalize that behavior and then get hooked and then start believing some of the crap that's coming out of their mouth. Like, you can't do better than me. You're a piece of crap. You're lucky I'm with you. Only somebody with low self-esteem would actually believe some of that crap, because that's what it is. It's crap. We can always do better than somebody that's negative, but this is my point. Okay. So you see how we went full circle? Radical responsibility. The only thing that prevents you from getting in a relationship with a narcissistic or abusive jackass is your work. It's the only thing. You doing the work on yourself, you raising your self-esteem, you feeling like a good person, you feeling like you deserve somebody good, you not rationalizing and putting up with crappy behavior and walking away, and one of a really gifted, wonderful way of looking at this is learn to be alone. It's not, so many people think that it's a difficult catch, because like I had to work through this. I'm a relationship person. I love being in a relationship. Love it. Never was looking for one until I fell in love when I was like 21, right? From that point on, from the day I fell in love when I was, 21, 22 years old, from that point until this day and into the future, I'm sure, I love being in a relationship. I love having somebody to love. I love having somebody to share my life with. I freaking love it. But I've been alone a lot of years. Why? Because I'm not going to settle. It's like, it's the full Monty or it's nothing, man. Like, and sometimes things don't work out, and I stopped second guessing it. But there's this little catch for those of us, which is many of us, that like being in a relationship. And it's all this focus on manifesting. People think that they have to put so much energy towards manifesting. We don't manifest crap. All we got to do is put an idea out there, and the universe manifests through us. Okay. So you don't have to like bring in this relationship. We have to learn to be alone, because if you don't know how to be alone, you're going to put up with other people's crap. You will. I guarantee it. It's just a matter of time. You have to be okay being alone. And you can't sit there and spend a month and a half being alone and going like, oh yeah, I whistled 3 times when I was feeling really lonely and eventually it passed. So I must have done my work. Now I can start dating again. Woo! I did my work. No, actually get comfortable, so comfortable being alone that you stop being concerned about dating for a little while. It's not that you don't ever get back to it. It's just, again, it's not being attached to an outcome, some particular goal. It's getting lost in the work, getting lost and falling in love with yourself and clearing out all that stuff, loving yourself, letting go of the blame, forgiving people who hurt you, because they'll pay their own, the punishment is built into the crime or the sin. It just is. Don't worry about them. They'll get their own. When I lived dysfunctionally, I suffered internally. Everybody that I see that's living dysfunctionally, hurting other people, are miserable inside. Why? Because you can't be happy inside, living your best life while you're running around hurting people. You can't put out crap, negative energy, and then receive love back. Like, you can't. Some people can be delusional about it and pretend like, oh man, I crap on people all the time and I love myself. No, you don't. How do I know? Because it's literally impossible. That's how I know. It's literally impossible. You can't run around crapping on people and feel good about yourself. You can lie to yourself about it. You can even believe your own lies. But deep down, you ain't fooling anybody, man, because you can't fool yourself. At some point, you're going to have to do your work. Or some people will die never doing their work. That's fine too, whatever. But I ain't living that type of life. So it's radical responsibility. Don't worry about the narcissist. Don't worry about the abusive people. Don't worry about whatever else is concerning you. Don't worry about, oh, what's on my list of what a good man is. Don't worry about it, man. Just do the work on yourself. Do the work on yourself. Raise your self-esteem, raise your self-love, get to know yourself better, and then from there, like, relax when you date. Because when something negative, it's not this, you don't have to defend yourself from anything because they can't get to you. That's what love does. That's the beauty of it, man. That's why this is the ultimate answer. When you're in love, nobody can hurt you. If you haven't heard Brene Brown's talk on vulnerability, look into that. People think vulnerability is opening up their heart with the possibility of being hurt. It's not. It's opening up your heart fully and finding out that you can't be hurt. When you are fully open and yourself and authentic and loving and you love yourself, and then somebody comes in and tries to screw with you, you're just like, no, you may go. It's the Wicked Witch of the West and the Wizard of Oz and the Glenda the Good Witch. The Wicked Witch comes in and Glenda just looks at her effortlessly and says, you have no power here. She doesn't fight against her. Why? Because she doesn't have to. She has no power here. You want to be Glenda the Good Witch, man. Do your self-work. Be that good witch. Sit there and be like, I'm love, man. You can't hurt me. I'm love. Well, you're a piece of crap. Like, you're lucky to have me. No, I'm not. No, I'm a wonderful, loving person, and you can go, because I'm going to go find somebody that can recognize this in me. And that's if you actually happen to get into a relationship with somebody for a little while and you start trying this stuff, then you leave then. But I guarantee you, the more work you do on yourself, the quicker you're going to realize it, because we can read energy. But we unconsciously attract, like, either something that vibrates. Like I said, like, victims are actually attracted to narcissists, just like narcissists are attracted to victims. They actually attract each other. So when you get out of that victim mentality, then all of a sudden you don't have to, and like, every once in a while, I'll have somebody that's really, like, doesn't understand boundaries, that's really overpowering, try to come at me. Usually they don't even bother. A lot of times people like that, and these are people that are not self-aware. Okay. I'm not talking about self-aware people. I'm talking about, like, just overpowering people, that haven't done any work on themselves. They'll walk into a room and they'll be boom, 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 nailing people. And they'll take one look at me and they'll skip me and go to somebody else a lot of times. I've had that happen tons of times because I won't put up with that crap, and they can feel it. Or if they come to me, I'll just put them in their place real quick. Nope, wrong guy. I'm not your guy. So this is what I'm talking about, man. You have control. You don't have to fear negative people out there. All you have to do is do the work on yourself, and you'll naturally repel them a lot of times. And then if you do come across them, you're going to recognize them a lot quicker. And then even if you don't recognize them quicker, you're just going to have the strength to sit up there and say, I'm not going to be treated like this, and exit. A narcissist can find a victim anywhere. They don't have to spend 14 years in a relationship with you trying to break you. They don't need it. They're not going to spend that much time trying to break you. Like, if they can't break you, they're just going to go find somebody that they can, So that's going to do it for now. I'm going to wrap this up before the hour expires. So thank you guys for listening, and I will talk with you soon. Peace.